Okay, so welcome again. This is the 14th of April. This is the Traders Club live session where we'll be looking through, you know, trades, trade ideas, trade opportunities in smaller time frames. We've just had the ECB rates decision, no change there. The rate statements were released, and I will go through that together with you. If you're on the platform, I've highlighted the key points there already. What we've actually just seen is with that news release, no change in statement and a drop and a statement release, no change in rates and a statement release. What we saw was the euro dropped pretty much 40 pips, almost 40 pips on news release right now, bouncing back a little bit. So not ready to enter any trades yet. There is a press conference happening at 8:30, so in a 20 minutes time. Then we'll look through that, we'll prepare for that and look for some trade ideas with the press conference being released. We won't be doing a analysis during the press conference. I hope to get you ready for that event, right? So if you are watching us on YouTube, then this is released 1 week later onto YouTube. Please be aware that any trades we talk about would be 1 week late already. So check the charts, check the trade analysis before you jump into any trades. And so with that, doing the disclaimer first, any information shared in this video is not intended to be a trade recommendation. It is solely the opinion and views of myself. So please remember to do your own analysis prior to entering any trades. Right, so now looking at the news straight up on Forex Factory this morning, I went through that already. We had the Aussie employment numbers just released at 7:45. We had the Euro ECB refinancing rate staying at 0%, monetary policy statement, and then at 8:30 we do have the ECB press conference, and also the US retail sales number. I'm quite interested in that retail sales number. Core retail sales looking to go from a 0.2 to a 1%. Retail sales number looking to go from a 0.3 to a 0.6. If that does come out that way, then we're going to see dollar strength come back into play, right? And right now, we're already seeing some dollar strength being applied, primarily because of the euro and the pound dropping against the dollar. So looking at the monetary policy statement here, clicking on the latest release, come to this statement here. The main thing, the headline is still that the conflict is causing the uncertainty, it's affecting the economy in the Eurozone and beyond, right? So that's one key concern for the ECB at this point. All right. Okay. So by the way, Traders Club members, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask the question. So coming back to the statement again, another thing to pay attention to is the inflation, right? Everyone's talking about inflation now. It's been across the board because of this high inflation. The Bank of Canada did a 50 basis point increase. We've seen the RBNZ do a 50 basis point increase. We see possibly the FOMC with a 50 basis point increase as well coming up in May. Bank of England possibly looking to do another increase. Again, the last time they tried to do 50 didn't come to that point. They only did 25. Might be looking at a bit more aggressive approach coming from Bank of England. So the general feel is that all central bankers, or pretty much all central bankers, are taking a relatively aggressive stance in terms of their interest rates decision. But coming to the ECB, what they're looking at is the APP, the Asset Purchase Program. They're going to continue that 40 billion in April, 30 in May, and 20 billion in June, anticipated to conclude in the third quarter of the year, right? So reinforcing its expectation to end in the third quarter of the year. But as you scroll down, after the end of the net purchase under the APP, the interest rates decision will be gradual, right? So path of ECB interest rates will continue to be determined by forward guidance and commitment to stabilizing inflation at 2% over the medium term. So why we saw that euro dollar drop was one reason. One reason is that although they didn't do anything, they're taking a very different stance compared to all other central bankers. They're taking a little bit more of a wait and see approach rather than the Bank of Canada, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, possibly the FOMC and the Bank of England with their more aggressive rates increase. So because of that, we're seeing the euro dollar drop that 40 pips right now, bouncing back up a little bit. This usually happens as it, at 7:45, the news comes out, straight away the euro dollar reacts, bounces back up, 8:15, then we're going to see with the press conference and President Lagarde speaking, Chairperson Lagarde speaking, then get a better insight into what their plans are. I think that the anticipation is that with the press conference, we're going to see the euro dollar drop further. So my bias here now will be for the euro dollar to drop further. So with that, looking at the dollar index at this point, wait, I got a wrong chart here. Looking at the dollar index at this point, this morning, we were just saying that I was looking for it to come down towards that 99.50 and bounce up. It's done that, right? So this morning we were here, it came down to 99.50. It's bounced up right now, retracing a little bit, but I anticipate that with the 8:30 news, the retail sales number, the core retail sales number, we're going to see this push back up towards that 100 level. So I think that dollar index will be tracking back towards that 100 level, but I'm not sure whether it'll be tracking a lot higher from this point. So I think at the most, we're looking at 100.20. Okay, so a bit of a revision. I would say that it'll possibly go towards that 100.20 on the dollar index at the most. With that in mind, what it means is that looking at the euro dollar, so I'll do a quick euro dollar first before the press conference in 15 minutes. Looking at on H1 time frame, right? So I hope many of you did get into that trade. This was a short-term one we spoke about on Tuesday. I hope many of you did get into that trade as it was bouncing off that 1.0850 level. Good counter trend trade up towards the 109.44 level. Didn't get there, but came as close as 109.23 before this news pushing it back down. From here, what should you be looking at? Right, I'll move this a little bit so it's easier to see. From here, what should you be looking at? Don't do anything right now. Don't look to enter any trades right now. When the press conference gets released or is being conducted, I would be, because of the anticipation to look to sell down, I'll be looking for selling opportunities. Possibly not on the H1 time frame. You could be looking at it on M15 at this point. It's a new 15-minute candle. So at the M15, I'm looking for it to break below this 108.64 level. If it breaks below 108.64, short-term trades you could be looking at will be about a 20 pip towards 108.40. You keep your stop loss about 20 pips as well, 1:1 risk reward ratio towards the downside for the euro dollar. This is on M15 time frame. So you can be looking to sell down from 108.64, 22 pips, 20 pips stop loss, 20 pips take profit level, 1:1 towards that 108.40 level. Alternatively, if you're not so keen on trading an M15 time frame kind of trade, you could wait for a little into the press conference, wait for it to develop, wait for it to get the direction going, miss out on this first trade, but then look to sell down if it breaks below this 108.40 level. So you can be looking to sell below 108.30, right? In this case, 20 pip stop loss. You can go for your almost 40 pip take profit level towards the 107.90 support level. So you can see if I go back to the H1 time frame, back to that level that we're anticipating for it to break lower, to test that support level. Okay, so you can see again, this is a very low point. Last time we came as low was in March at 108, 108, around 108 flat. So just be a bit careful when you're trying to trade this down. But if the press conference does come out and if they talk about, waiting, seeing, ending APP before deciding what to do, then we might see the euro dollar push below that 108.40 and track towards the 107.90 level. I think two main factors here is coming from the ECB is that it's a little bit non-aggressive in terms of their rates decision, and also given that the Russia-Ukraine conflict is causing that uncertainty on the Eurozone. That's why we've seen that drop on the euro dollar. Now, what if, back to the M15 time frame, what if it goes up, right? If they come out and they start being a little bit more positive and you see the euro dollar push higher, I would actually stay out. I would stay out because at this point, if you will look to buy, just as an example, if you look to buy the euro dollar towards the upside, your stop loss would be a bit variable. You wouldn't want to put it right below here at 20 pips, and you wouldn't want to do 50 pips there because your take profit would only be 50 towards at the maximum, or reasonably about 30 pips there. So it'll be right in the middle of the resistance and support level. I would probably stay out of the euro dollar if it does push higher, unless it push above this resistance level, which I think is going to be a bit unlikely. So quite straightforward here on the euro dollar is to look for it to drop. If it drops below the previous candle, then look to sell. And if you want to be a bit more conservative, look for it to break below this 108.40 level before looking to sell. So two trade ideas there on the euro dollar, on the M15 and on H1 time frame, right? So 10 more minutes to the news. What I also want to share with you here is the euro pound. Okay, and if I can, I'll do a very quick one on just some other trade ideas in terms of the other pairs because of the dollar. Dollar retail sales number is going to be quite straightforward. You can trade it. I'll show you how. Euro pound on H1 time frame broke below that 83 level. We were talking about this yesterday and the day before already, so that trade played out very well. At this point, I'm looking for it to bounce back up, right? So looking for it to bounce back up, because why it's bouncing a bit more is because the euro dollar is pushing, retracing a little bit, but pound dollar had also dropped and it's not bouncing back as much. So as the pound dollar drops, it's going to push the euro dollar back up, the euro pound back up a little bit, right? So when you look at the euro pound, just bear in mind that you're considering both the euro dollar move and the pound dollar move. At this point, I'm looking for it to retrace, possibly close to that 83.83 level before looking for another selling opportunity. Where and how low can it go, right? I don't think it'll go to 82. I would say have another line towards this 82, maybe 82.60, just as a number there, 82.60. So you can be looking for it to bounce back up. Oops. Then look to sell it down from the 83 towards 82.60. So what you can actually be looking for is a selling opportunity to move up, to test and reject. So you're looking to sell down from 82, below 83, right? Below 0.83, you have a 30 pip stop loss, you have a 20 pip take profit level. There'll be a 1:1.5 risk reward ratio towards the downside on the euro pound, but be a lot more patient here. It needs to go up, it needs to test and reject this 0.83 level, turn down, then you start looking to sell. At this point, I would say don't focus on it too much, pay more attention to the euro dollar. I think that would have a better play out or a simpler play out in terms of when the press conference session is ongoing in 9 minutes time. So again, quickly now back to the US retail sales number. If we do see a positive number, and I think it's going to be a good number because it's going to 0.2 is easy to beat, 0.3 is easy to beat in terms of the retail sales number. So I think we're going to see better than previous. Whether it'll be better than expected, there might be a chance it's not, but I think more likely than not, it's going to be better than 0.6 and maybe 1% or 0.9% on the core retail sales. So I still think that we're going to see good numbers here for the US that would push the US dollar towards the upside. So what you could be looking for is, let's look at the Aussie dollar first. Aussie dollar now bouncing back up a little bit. I think that if you were to look to sell it down, you could, it needs to break below 0.7438 before selling down towards 7400 or 7409 or 7410. So still a selling opportunity towards the downside. Move that a bit. You could be looking to sell down 7435, right? A 15 pip stop loss, a 25 pip take profit level, a 1:1.6 risk reward ratio towards the downside, but it needs to be because of the interest rate, because of the retail sales number being a good data for the US. Alternatively, looking at the Kiwi dollar, so I'm trying to go through the charts quickly. Same thing as the Aussie, possibly a lot more downside to be expected here. If it breaks below, be a bit more conservative here, 6800, let's say 6800, your stop loss could be 30 pips, your take profit would be about 30, a 1:1 risk reward ratio. I'm a bit iffy about that. I'm not too sure whether you're going to get into that. If you're going to be a little bit more aggressive, then at about 6808, can look to sell once it closes below this point. Stop loss again, 20 pips, take profit towards the recent low, 40 pips, 1:2 towards the downside. But I would be a bit more careful of that. So I wouldn't recommend this trade. US yen is the one I'm quite keen on. So if we do see that stronger dollar, then look for the US yen to push back up towards this 125.80 level. So this, US yen has been sitting in that consolidation today. We were looking at it this morning to see whether it's come down and bounced back up. It hasn't come down to bounce back up. What I would be looking for now will be to buy it up from this 125.45 level, take profit 30 pips, stop loss very tight at about 20 pips, let it push towards 125.80, then you would have another trade idea for it to break above that 125.80, right? Stop again, take profit, maybe another 40 pips, stop loss this time can be quite tight at just under 20 pips, or 1:2 risk reward ratio towards the upside for the US yen. So what you'll notice here is that I'm identifying both kinds of trades. I'm looking at the immediate move and also the move that breaks above a resistance level or a support level. So, you can trade within the move towards the upside, or you can be a little bit more conservative, sit it out, wait for it to break above a resistance or a support level before getting into that trade. So US yen, possible two trade idea there. US CAD, we spoke about this yesterday. We looked to sell it down. It came towards the 125.70, tried to hit, almost came towards 125.00, didn't, came towards 125.20 before bouncing back up. Again, if we do see that dollar strength, then look to buy. So I'll move this across a little bit, right? If we do see that dollar strength push up above 125.70, hey, then we would say dollar strength, look to buy it up above that level. This time, stop loss 20 pips, take profit about 40 pips, a 1:2 risk reward ratio towards the upside. I'll be looking for a repeat of what happened here. Break up, go towards that 126.20 level. Beyond could happen, but possibly a little bit more tricky. So I'd say keep this trade a little bit more conservative. Wait for it to break above that resistance and then look to trade up towards that 126.20, 126.22 level, right? Any questions so far at this point? Let me check. All good? Big thumbs up if it's all good. I'll say something if it's all good. All righty. Got one thumb up, so that's good. So coming back to it again, the pound dollar, we looked at pound dollar briefly just then. So pound dollar, I would not enter any trades on the pound dollar if it was on the based on the US dollar strength. So okay, this is a bit of a different view here. We're expecting the US dollar to push up towards that 100 level. But what if it doesn't? It doesn't mean that you don't have any trades to do. If the US dollar doesn't push towards that 100 level and actually comes back down towards that 99.50 level, then that's where the pound dollar will come into consideration. I'll be very careful to try and sell the pound dollar down because yesterday we saw strong CPI numbers coming from the UK. So I wouldn't, and then we saw that big move pushing the pound dollar off, finally off that 1.30 support level all the way towards the 1.3150 level. So I would be saying that if the pound dollar does drop, stay out of it. But if we do see the dollar weakness and we see pound dollar come down, test the 1.31 level and push higher, then you can be looking for that continuation move towards the upside for the pound dollar, about a 20 pip take profit, 15 to 20 pips stop loss there. You can go for 20 pips, a 1:1 risk reward ratio towards the upside for the pound dollar. And if you're a bit more aggressive, you can even try for that 1.32 resistance level on the pound dollar. I know that the pound dollar is tracking lower right now, but be very careful. Even if it does come down, I think that there are many other trade ideas to be had rather than trying to counter this pound move towards the upside. For example, the Aussie dollar. Right? So Aussie dollar, if it does come down, then I would rather the Aussie dollar than the pound dollar. You would have noticed that I also sent out an Aussie dollar signal on the club as well for you guys. So we're all into this Aussie dollar trade signal, I think a couple of hours ago. So just watch out for that one. Right, so 8:30 now with the press conference coming from the ECB and also the retail sales number. I'm more keen on the retail sales. So it dropped not as expected, but more than previous on the retail sales number. So previous was 0.3, expected 0.6. Retail sales number came out at 0.5. Core retail sales number being a little bit surprising. 0.2 expected of 1%, came out at 1.1%. So what we're seeing here is that retail sales number for the US better than previous, slightly below expected, and core retail sales better than previous and better than expected. Core retail sales, bear in mind, it is excluding automobiles, right? It's excluding automobiles. So that's why a bit less impact on it because the oil prices haven't affected automobiles and oil prices relating to purchasing cars. So that's why we've seen the core retail sales jump a little bit. And also because of, if you read here, this is the total value of sales. So because inflation has been so high in the US, things are getting more expensive. That's why the total value of sales in the retail level has pushed a little bit higher towards the upside at that 1.1% for the US. right? So with the press conference here, if you're interested, I would not be streaming this because I don't think it works very well, is that you can watch the press conference into, where is it? Oh, you can watch the, it's not up yet. Is it up already? Okay, so you can watch the press conference here on YouTube, but generally, I would say, you don't have to watch it. Try not to trade during this press conference when she's talking, unless prices are moving as we had planned, right? So coming back to the euro dollar, you can see that as the press conference has just started, the euro dollar hasn't pushed up. It's actually on this candle started to turn down, because what's happening in the press conference now is that they're reading the statement. So they're reiterating the statement or the details of the statement. And then after that, then we get the questions and answers where we'll see even more volatility. At this point, it's reading the statement, just telling you what we've read at 7:45. So no surprises there. We're possibly going to see that test come back down. I'm not sure whether it'll test all the way towards that 1.0863 level. Might sit there for a while. Towards the end, towards the middle part where questions and answer starts, then we can see a bit more movement on the euro dollar. Any questions at this point? Anyone? If there's no questions, then I'll get back to what I always do and start scrolling through charts to see anything happening. So you can see here, oops, am I still sharing this? Okay, you can see here that the US dollar, the dollar index has bounced back up from when we were looking at it at 99.73, now at 99.81, looking like it's possibly pushing a little bit towards the upside. So I'm looking to see whether it's going to get to that 100 level. So again, just quickly scrolling through the different charts and possible trade ideas. Euro dollar, I've told you about already. Aussie dollar tracking very nicely. What I'm looking for now, that trade idea still holds. I'll zoom in a little bit for you to see. Below this one, 0.7435, which is happening right now, I will be looking to sell it down. You can look at an H1 time frame or even the 15-minute time frame. You can see that it's almost coming close and possibly closing below that point. So you can be looking for that selling opportunity. New Zealand dollar not doing as much compared to the Aussie dollar. So as we were saying, not too keen on this at this point. Pound dollar still testing that 1.31 level. Just be careful, right? It's tested bouncing around at that point. Just be a bit more aware of it. I think that it's going to test lower. Looks like it's going to be a great time to sell, but it almost feels like the moment you sell, it's going to bounce back up. Something like what happened here last night. Tracked lower, looked like it's going to break a lot downwards and then bounce straight back up. So just be careful of that. Still looking for that buying opportunity on the pound dollar. On the euro pound, bounced. You can see that it's bounced, hit that 0.83 level, now turning back down again. So I'll be looking to see whether we can sell it towards the downside, but not right now, right? So just wait out a little bit. Even if you check the M15, let this, I can move this across. Oops. Let this M15 candle close below that point. So a couple more minutes more to wait. Let it close below that 8.8292 level before trying to sell. Because at this point, you're going to see it bounce back up. You're going to see it move all around. Don't do anything yet. Wait for it. All right. Something's happening on the euro dollar. So just doing a quick check back on the euro dollar. You can see now, look at that, euro dollar tracking lower, right? Coming down towards that 108.63 level. If it does break below that point, that's your first trade idea. But bear in mind, do your own analysis as well. Just sharing with you what trades I would get into. That's the first trade towards that 1.0841 level. Then if it breaks again, could be a second trade there. I'm getting too excited. I'm jumping over the place. Okay, now US dollar, US yen breaking higher. So we were just talking about this just then on the H1 time frame, right? So US yen pushing higher. I hope you did get into that trade on M15 or H1 time frame to trade it up towards the 125.80 level. This is all driven because of that number, right? Because of that retail sales number coming from the US, pushing it up. Good core retail sales number, better than previous. Oh, got revision on the previous from a 0.3 to a 0.8. So retail sales number did drop a little bit, but that's including automobiles. So core retail sales has actually done quite well. That's revised from a 0.2 to a 0.6. So still an increase there on the retail sales numbers, seeing that dollar strength come into play. What else do we look at? US CAD. US CAD, another trade idea that we were just talking about. Looking for that buying opportunity. Do this on the H1 time frame, give it a bit more time because the US CAD did drop quite significantly because of the Bank of Canada 50 basis point increase last night. If it does track back up above that 1.2571 level, let it close. Sit there 20 minutes, let that candle close above this resistance level before looking to buy it up towards that 1.2622 level. Right, so looking at some other cross pairs, the euro yen, not doing anything, right? I was looking for it to break above that resistance level. It might get there, it will take a little bit more because euro dollar is dropping, but yen is pushing higher, so it's having that conflict there. I would not be looking at it at this point. I think there's a lot of other trade ideas rather than trying to force a trade out on the euro yen. On the pound yen, again, I was looking for a test lower, bounce back up. Pound dollar dropping right now, dropping a little bit, possibly going to bounce around. So I'll stay out of the pound yen at this point. I don't think it will test lower. So we're looking to see whether it's going to push up. But, you know, a lot of other trades, I'll rather the US yen rather than the pound yen. All right, so back to the euro dollar. Bouncing back up again. So nothing happening too much on the euro dollar there because it's still the press conference. They are still talking and commenting. Let's look for any highlights. So retail sales there. Monetary policy decision, that's the one we had at 7:45. Any headlines from them? Nothing yet. ECB may bring forward the end of its bond buying as inflation spirals. We know that already. Okay, so nothing much there from the ECB. Euro dollar still within that level. So this level is crucial. This 1.0863 level is crucial. Only if it breaks below this point, then look to sell. Aussie dollar doing quite well at this point, tracking lower. I think in 20 minutes, if we see this close downwards like that, or even a little bit lower down, we're going to see I'll zoom in a little bit more for you there. We're going to see that as a pin bar towards the downside. Then we can see the Aussie dollar really push lower. So watch that for a trigger to sell below 0.7435, 0.7435. If you had already jumped onto the trade with the trade signals, then you'll be about a close to 6 pips in profit there already, right? So there was a bit of an early entry there on the Aussie dollar. Right. So any other things to look at it? How's your trades? Anyone been trading? Anything to review? Anything to consider? I never get an answer when I ask that question. You're all just, I'm just focusing on the euro dollar now. It's just sitting right there. I'm waiting on the M15 time frame. I'm waiting for it to track lower, close below that point before looking to sell it down towards the 108.40 level. Looks very likely, but needs to be patient. All right, so Amanda, all good? iPhone, Amy, Frederick, Sally, Jenny, and everyone else, all good? Super, super. If it's all good, what I'll do is I'll end the session short and sharp, just so that I can get back into trading the euro dollar, watch the press conference and trade the euro dollar down. Bear in mind, I still think that the Aussie and the yen and the euro dollar, those will be the highest ranking on my trade priorities there. All right. With that, remember, no currency call tomorrow. It is Good Friday, so have a good Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back on Monday, Easter Monday, but we'll be back. See you. Bye-bye.